January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December. Wyrd Kalendar TV. Don't finish. Never press finish until the end. Okay. No one's watching. Smile. Just go. Because someone's watching now. January, the resolution. Woodchester was built on a promise made to an old man at the town well on January the 1st, a promise that if kept would mean wealth, health and prosperity for all, a promise of great worth and power, a promise that must not be broken, a promise long forgotten. The well stood derelict now. Weeds had sprouted in the crumbling mortar around the rim like tufts of hair on a bald man's pate. The rope had rotted away and the bucket had long since fallen into the darkness. An iron grid had been fixed into position above the hole. Nothing but the odd coin, bit of litter, or pebbles from folk curious as to the possible depth of the well ever found their way through the gaps in the grid. A person could give a count of 4.5 between loosing a stone and hearing a distant splash. The well was deep. The legend of the promise had stuck with me since Mother had told it to me as a child. She wasn't sure how far back it went, but it grew in resonance as I watched, with growing despondency, the deterioration of my town. The grocer had closed several years ago. The post office and the little Lloyd's branch had followed suit. There were a couple of MoneyGram and Poundland shops, but otherwise the high street was deserted and boarded up. This was a pretty standard response to the closure of 2 major factories on the outskirts of town. Tompkinson's, the shoemakers, had shut its doors 5 years previously. The 300 workers were forced to find work elsewhere. The only time the factory had been in use since its closure had been for one illegal and poorly attended rave, and as a venue for an immersive theatre company who wanted to mark the passing of the 80-year-old factory whilst making a comment on the state of the nation and the exploitation of workers. Very few people from the town attended. The pottery factory, which mass-produced willow pattern plates and bowls, went into receivership and had been closed for 3 years. This was where I had worked. Now I sat twiddling my thumbs and waiting for the next big thing with my friend, Mickey. And Mickey had sat next to me at the conveyor belt. There we were, Mickey and Phil, adjusting the plates to ensure that they would go through the kiln with the correct amount of space between them, whilst throwing cracked, damaged and misshaped plates back into the clay bin. We did this for 2 years straight out of university because we didn't have a single idea of what to do next. After the closure, we still had no idea, so we both sat, 20-something teenagers on park benches, eating into our benefits and our parents' goodwills like the ageing, overfed leeches that we were. Mickey and I talked of going travelling. We realised that we had no discernible or marketable skills. With my 3rd in philosophy and his 2-1 in politics and history, all we could really do was dissemble and talk nonsense, and we did a great deal of that. We did consider becoming hermits, purveyors of sage advice. We thought we could revive the strange 18th century custom of becoming ornamental hermits for a laird somewhere. The idea of living in a hut on some rich man's land, handing out nuggets of perceived wisdom to those who sought it, appealed to our ostentatious natures. We even went so far as creating useful idioms for prospective clients, and Mickey invested £6 in getting a set of business cards made. It was while we pondered on the life of a hermit that our thoughts turned to the well, the old man, and the promise. He became something of a hero to us, and we spent hours trying to fathom what this promise might have been. What had he said that would have guaranteed success for the town? To know that would be... I do beg your pardon, everyone, but a dog has just walked into shot and is currently doing a poo.
Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year, thank you. Where did I get to? Right. We'll go back. I'm going to come over here for a moment. Right, so where were we? We got to, he became something of a hero to us. That's where we got to. Okay, right, here we go. He became something of a hero to us. And we spent hours.
Ralph says critics everywhere.
Okay, right. He became something of a hero to us, and we spent hours trying to fathom what this promise might have been. What had he said that would have guaranteed success for the town? To know that would mean everything. The well became a place for reflection for us as we sank deeper. Sorry, the camera operator, camera woman is laughing right now. That's what's happening. Okay, this is putting me off slightly. Bit professional. Kev, you missed the dog pooing while I was reading right in my eye line. And it really smells as well. That's basically what you just missed. So, we're very childish. It's New Year's Day. Right, hang on, we'll carry on. The well became a place of reflection for us as we sank deeper into our pretensions. Right, is everyone with me now? Okay, good. We became something akin to minor celebrities over the coming months. Unable to find any work, we set ourselves up as odd job men, clearing rubbish, mending things, planting and weeding. When no work came our way, we made it our business to tidy up the town square. The parish council had so little money, they could only afford to pay a street cleaner to sweep the town twice a year. So you can imagine the state that the place was in. The well sat in the corner of the town square. It was framed by a Betfred on one side and a McColl's on the other. 4 dilapidated benches slumped around the well, paint long peeled and slats rotted away. Mickey and I set to work mending and painting. We asked family and friends for any spare pots of paint or varnish regardless of colour. Mickey spent another £6 on business cards, so that when someone asked what we were doing or complimented our work, we could furnish them with a hermit cleaner's card. We were determined to make something of the well so it became a focal point for the town square. I set to work remortaring it and found some reclaimed wood to fix the roof and winch. We even found some rope attach to the winch, but decided it would be best to keep the well ornamental rather than functional. So I set about securing the grid, which was loose in several places. It was when I was knocking out some loose mortar around the edges of the grid that one of the larger stones gave way, threatening to tumble into the darkness. I resolved that more remedial work would need to be done, certain stones replaced and others remortared into safer positions. To do this, the grid would need to be removed. We put a cordon around the well. We had managed to win several paid jobs from some of the townsfolk, so had to abandon our gratis work for a while. We were working on clearing the garden of one of the parish councillors, an elderly gentleman called Robert Allerton. At mid-morning, on an unnaturally hot October day, after we had cleared a particularly stubborn patch of nettles, he brought out a jug of punch and informed us that it contained cold tea, orange and lemonade. "We're trying to raise funds to keep you on permanently, boys," he said, pouring the fizzing brew into 2 pint glasses. "You've done an absolutely splendid job on the square." Mickey removed his cap and wiped his brow before taking a half-pint gulp of the punch. "That well is giving us some trouble." "That well always has." Mickey and I shared an excited glance. I took another swig of punch. We're going to have to make it safe. The stones are loose and the grid needs fixing." "It's a mighty deep well," Robert stated. "How long has it been there?" Mickey asked, draining his glass. Robert chuckled whilst pouring. "Longer than me, and that's for certain." Mickey and I shared a second glance. "What do you know of the promise?" I asked. "The what?" "The promise." "Not sure I've heard of that." "My mum told me about an old man by the well who made the village promise something that would ensure wealth, prosperity and health for all." "The resolution?" "I'm sorry?" "I think your ma's got things mixed up. It's called the resolution. The parish council have it as their motto. It's on the Woodchester coat of arms." "Really?" "That's right." I looked at Mickey with excitement. "What does it say?" "Hold to the resolution. In other words, keep your promise." Oh. And what is the resolution? Robert paused. We don't know. It would be good to know. Robert looked at the cracks in the walls of the town hall, at the ageing chipboard covering the vast windows of the old C&A, at the drooping letters above the back-painted windows of the long-shut Woolworths, and nodded. You're not wrong there. We could certainly do with some prosperity. Mind you, if there were more people like you about, why would we need to worry about the resolution? Perhaps that's what it is. I like to think that the resolution is the motto itself. Hold to the resolution, be resolved, keep going, plough on, don't give up. Very Winston Churchill. Nothing wrong with that. Not at all. We drank to Winston and got back to work. More paid work kept coming in for the next few months, leaving us only a few afternoons to ensure that the town square was kept tidy. There were no opportunities to tackle the well, as it needed both of us and a couple of full, uninterrupted days to complete. So it wasn't until New Year's Day that we managed to get back to the town square. Mickey and I had come armed with crowbars. After an inordinate amount of huffing and puffing, we managed to raise the grid before staggering with it to the tree where it was left leaning upright. We looked down into the blackness. How deep do you think it is? I asked, enjoying the resonance that the well added to my voice. Mickey found a pebble and held it out over the centre of the dark circle. He opened his palm. 1, 2, 3, 4. There was a satisfying plop. 4.5 seconds deep by my reckoning. How deep is that? Mickey stood. He strode over to the van. He started the engine and reversed it until the boot was a few feet from the well. Jumping from the driver's seat, he ran around to the passenger door, pulling a coil of rope from inside. He attached this carefully to the tow bar before throwing it over the edge and into the black. He had a torch attached to his head. I shook my head. You're not, I said. I bleeding am. What about the mending? Mending can wait, Phil. The grid will go on, and then we'll never know what's down there. You've been planning this. Damn right. And with that resolve, he dropped down into the black. The light illuminated the walls in increasing and decreasing rings of white. I could hear the soft screeching of rope against pulley as he made his careful descent. A hand gripped my shoulder. A cough. I turned. A very old face stared into mine. You hold to the resolution, he croaked, his blackened teeth stark against his long, dirty white beard. I'm sorry? The town has turned. You hold to the resolution. This is good. It is? I looked down. Mickey had stopped, the light a distant bright speck, a star in a circle of darkness. You at the bottom? Nah, he called back. I've run out of rope. Can you see the bottom? Hang on. The light disappeared as he looked down. Yep, I need to get more rope. The light darted around the circumference. I raised my head for a moment. The old man had gone. Mickey shouted up at me. There's a little arch here. I returned my attention to the well. Probably where the water comes in. An underground stream or something. I can reach it. Why don't you come back up and we'll get more rope? All right. The rope jiggled slightly as Mickey began to climb. It wobbled, pulling tight. The rope began to scrape against the stone. There was a tearing scream of rubber on cobbles. I looked at the van, which started to move, its tyres chafing the cobbles as it was pulled towards the well. A sharp crack was followed by an abrupt explosion of silence. The van sat still. The well was dark, the rope slack and shifting slightly in the breeze. I called down into the dark of the well. My hand rested on the lifeless rope. I began to reel it in. The pulley had gone. The end was frayed. Specks of blood decorated the loose threads. I called into the dark again. My voice echoed back in reply. I watched as the police sent 2 of theirs down into the well. I watched as radios blared into an excited back and forth, as officers rushed to the edge, as rope and wire baskets were lowered. The officers formed a wall around the wire baskets, whispering at each other in frantic tones, clicking cameras, warbling into radios. I peered through legs and between arms to glimpse what had been brought up. Flashes of green cloth, blue nylon, splintered old white china bone, glances of exposed marrow, sockets of skull, grinning teeth and jaw. An officer came over to me with a cup of scalding coffee in a delicate paper cup, asking me what had happened. I told her all I knew. took her through everything step by step. The grid, the van, the rope, the descent, the old man, the stopping, the moving, the crack, the silence. She asked me if I had any questions. I asked her if they had found Mickey. We haven't. Then what a... She shook her head. She told me she couldn't say. This wasn't just due to it being an ongoing investigation. She really didn't know. Over the coming months, Woodchester became a circus. It was revealed that the remains were of many different people, 16 in all, some decades old. The town really benefited from the constant flow of police, journalists and hawkers. The shops did very well out of all the drama and the visitors it produced. I kept the town square clean, and the parish council were able to employ me at last. The money promised in the contract allowed me to hire 2 other workers. Mickey's Hermits, as it was now called, became a successful little business. But there was no sign of Mickey. After all the investigations were done, the well was closed. They'd found no trace of him, nor of the archway he'd spoken of. A huge stone slab was placed on its top with a plaque commemorating Mickey and the other unknown victims. The council opened a small museum from the funds that the town had raised that explored the legend of the Resolution. This was something I had asked for. I knew that Mickey would have been pleased to see the money used for this. Woodchester prospered. We were resolved that this tragedy would not set us back. New businesses opened. The town centre became a jewel. Little boutiques popped up. The chipboard and the back-painted windows disappeared. We even got a Primark. Unemployment was at a record low. Every New Year's Day, I held a vigil for Mickey. I would light a candle and sing Dirty Old Town, which he always used to hum when sweeping the pavement. 2 years had passed. The town was dwindling a little by now. The museum didn't get as many visitors. The parish council were considering closing it. A few shops had shut, and although the town square still looked magnificent, there was an air of impending doom about the place. The town was silent as I approached the well. The New Year revels of the night before had put the town to early bed. The square was deserted, save for a solitary figure standing with his hand on the stone slab. An old man with long dirty white hair and beard, wearing a brown Hessian robe. I bristled. But, resolved, I lit my candle, placing it in the centre of the stone. The old man looked on in silence. I stood still, waiting. The man shifted, his hand grabbing my shoulder. He moved close, pressing his mouth against my ear. "You kept to the resolution," he whispered. "I'm sorry?" "You kept to the resolution." "Who are you?" "Will you keep to the resolution now?" "There is no resolution." The old man let go of my shoulder. I turned to face him. His eyes searched mine. "You kept to the resolution." I stayed resolved. "Yes, look around you. Look at what Mickey and I did." The old man cast his gaze around the square. "The town is on the turn." "Yes, it is." "So, are you resolved? Now, will you bring prosperity?" I studied the old man. So ancient, charred and crinkled tissue paper skin, skull showing through tightly pulled flesh, eyes grey, teeth black, holding on to life by an ancient silk thread. I thought about what he was asking and measured my words carefully. It's just circumstance. Things change. Sometimes we succeed, sometimes we fail. You must keep to the resolution. Which is what exactly? The town must be fed. The guts of Woodchester must be filled. I looked from this skeletal figure to the candle flickering in the still January night. "I think you should leave." "This is my town." "Is it?" "I guard the well. I tend to the needs of Woodchester. If the well is fed, Woodchester thrives." "Woodchester thrives because of hard work." The old man struck me hard across the cheek. "Hard work is never enough. You must sate the appetite of the town." I could still feel the impact from the brittle bones. I rubbed the pain from my face. "I have returned because the way is blocked," he whispered. "It was blocked before, and so I instructed your forefathers to dig this well. Woodchester would then thrive as his sated appetite would spread joy through the pores of the land." "You wish for the well to be reopened?" "It must be. The old man reached across the well and flicked the candle carelessly to the floor. I leapt forward to grab him, to pull him away, but he batted me aside. He pushed at the stone with one hand. The 40-year-old mortar cracked, and, with an effortless sweep of his arm, the vast lid scraped across the rim before falling with a monstrous shudder to the floor. He stood, looking down into the black, a smile playing about his mouth. I hesitated a moment, looked about the square, and seeing that no one was about, pushed at the old man's back, pitching him forward before grabbing his feet and pivoting him over the edge. His horrified scream echoed as I counted aloud. 1, 2, 3, 4. There was no splash, only a crack, followed by silence. The police and the press returned the next day. How had the lid been moved? Was it vandalism or something more? There was nothing down there, just some torn rags. Interest arose once more. Excitement and rumour grew. Woodchester sprung to life again. My palms itch. For the last 40 years, the town has resolved to make it work. The museum is well funded and well attended. The well is open, but has a locked cage around it, which is far more exciting. People come from miles around to listen out for sounds of something at the bottom. T-shirts of the well with eyes in the blackness are selling in great numbers. A local gift shop closes on the square. My palms itch. I'm so old now. I'm alone. I've let myself go. My hair is wild and I have not shaved. But all that matters is the town. All that matters is the upkeep of the town square. Between back-breaking stints of weeding and sweeping, I stand by the well during the day and wish health and prosperity for all. The tea rooms have shut down. My palms itch. They call me the old man by the well. I smile and wave and wish health and prosperity for all. When they step close to the cage, my palms itch. I wish them health and prosperity. I smile, but my palms itch. My hands clench into fists to stop them flattening into palms that push. My palms make to press against their backs. I am concerned that my beloved town will suffer again. We've been doing so well, but I am resolved. I know this cannot last forever. The town will turn. It has to. I will hold to the resolution. This new year, I shall open the cage and feed the guts of Woodchester. I wonder how I shall taste. Thank you very much for joining me on January the 1st, 2021. I hope you've enjoyed the story and the slight interruption we had towards the beginning. If you didn't see that bit, then please do rewind. I think I recovered, and I hope you've enjoyed it. Have a very, very happy new year, and see all of you weirdos soon at Wyrd Kalendar. Goodbye.